James West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We are still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning. What do you say? It is Wednesday, July 9, and this is the Bill Press Show. That's me. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, as we do every weekday morning, Monday through Friday, for 3 hours right here on Free Speech TV and on our video stream worldwide at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Hey, the bear was on the loose again last night out in Denver, the president having dinner with 5 Americans who had written him letters concerning their problems and their lives dealing with this sputtering economy. And then afterwards, the president left the restaurant, and instead of jumping back into his limousine, he's decided to take a stroll through the neighborhood, surprising shop owners and shoppers in that little section of Denver. Today, the president moves on to Dallas, where he will meet with a group of local leaders about immigration problems at the border, also leaders of the faith community. At the very last minute, invited is Texas Governor Rick Perry, who last week said the president was incompetent on the issue of immigration, but then turned around and begged to be invited to this meeting with the president. On the immigration front, President Obama yesterday asked Congress for a supplemental $3.8 billion to deal with the flood of young kids, 52,000 so far, who have crossed the border, most of them coming up from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Meanwhile, New York Times reporting that President Obama didn't even know about this German citizen the United States, the CIA, had recruited to spy on Germany for us. What a colossal embarrassment. Almost as embarrassing as Brazil's 7-1 loss to Germany in the World Cup yesterday. All of that and more coming up here. Look forward to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS on the Bill Press Show this Wednesday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed, the World Cup. What a blowout. How unfair to the host country. Oh, my God. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? What do you say? Great to see you this morning. On a Wednesday, July 9, here we go. Get ready, fasten your seatbelts. 3 fast hours of the Bill Press Show starting right now here in Washington, D.C. and coming out to you wherever you are in this great land of ours. Good to have you with us on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to have you with us on Free Speech TV. Good to have you with us on the TuneIn app. That's free. Download it. Find us on the Progressive Voice channel. And good to have you with us on worldwide on our video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR TV. How about it? Again, Wednesday morning, July 9. Good morning, good morning. We'll bring you the news of the day from here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. You tell us what you think about it all. Give us a call. Join the conversation. Come on. Get involved at 866-55-PRESS. Your opinions are certainly worth just as much as mine. So let's hear from you. And also you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We got the team here this morning, the summer team for this week at any rate. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Good morning.
It's hard to get all 4 of the regulars in studio at any time during the summer.
It's going to be a while.
I mean, now
we've already gone a long stretch without everybody.
I know. I've had a couple of days off here and there. I know you've got a couple coming up. Elisa had a few days off.
Cyprian had some stuff.
Cyprian is out, so Monty Kansler is here, our videographer. Fortunately, we got a good backup team.
That's it.
Monty Kansler here.
We have a deep bench.
A deep bench. And Alicia Cruz off this week, so Javon Paris taking care of the phones. And so here we again, we have a deep bench. That's what keeps us going. Yeah. Now, what happened yesterday? I mean,
man.
All right. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. It was colossally embarrassing. And Brazil's better than that.
They are better than that.
They just lost their heart there. Both the first 4 goals in 6 minutes.
Brutal.
I know, unbelievable.
That's
brutal.
Brutal.
That'll break the back of anybody.
Hey, look, they only lost by 1 touchdown. It's not that bad, Bill.
Yeah. I know.
And that 3rd goal happened seconds after the second.
It
really did.
Just watching some of that game, those Germans were playing a different game, man.
They were. I mean, you must admit, they are scary good.
They really are.
You know?
They really are just terrifying.
And I don't know what's going to happen today with Belgium, Argentina, but
Netherlands.
Yeah.
Netherlands and Argentina.
Dutch and Argentina.
The Dutch. Today. I'm sorry, not the Belgium. Yeah, right. The Dutch and Argentina.
The Dutch.
But they are also scary good, right?
They are.
If it ends up, somebody said the other, it looks like a European, maybe.
Clinton, all European.
Clinton was saying all European. Could be. That will be precision, man. Yeah. But then Argentina plays a different kind of game, and so
I don't see how Germany loses. I really don't see how Germany loses.
How they good is
none of their games have been particularly close.
Yeah.
They look like they just have total and utter control.
I had to turn off the game. I did.
So ugly.
It was so ugly.
Violent.
When Germany got the 7th one, I just said, I can't watch anymore.
Now they can't come back.
Now I can't watch anymore. And I was thinking, what they have at when there's no score, right? They go to the kickoff and everything to kind of resolve it. I think there should be on the opposite end of the spectrum. When it's so one-sided, they ought to
the
just
mercy rule.
Stop the game.
They have this.
The mercy.
They have this, not in professional sports.
No, but
in lower leagues
for little kids. They just say, "All right, it's 15-0. Let's just stop it right here."
Yeah. They could have stopped at the half. Then it would only been a half
They
game.
could have stopped at the half, except we would have missed the excitement. The excitement when Oscar finally scores.
Back the other way now. Neuer was going to come out, and Oscar is in the box, cutting, goes right, looks, and the shutout's gone. Well, Neuer's the only one that's upset. Oscar scores 7-1.
The crowd finally has something. They're still a little muted there.
Boy,
though.
that would have
That's
been
not
embarrassing.
Did you see too how ticked off the goalie was that they actually even got one in?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Well, I'll tell you. So, we may have tapped Merkel's phone. We may have hired a spy to spy on Germany. But Germany got back. They got even yesterday. Showed what they're made of. All right. Hey, David Jackson coming up from the White House a little bit later this hour. USA Today's White House chief correspondent. Congressman Dan Kildee from Michigan here in the studio with us. As well, a little bit later, Sabrina Siddiqui here as a friend of Bill. You know her as a former and soon to be again guest host of the Bill Press Show. Sabrina Siddiqui, one of our good friends. And President Obama dealing with immigration today in Texas. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, I like potato salad.
I do too.
You like potato salad?
Yeah, I do
well,
too.
Zach Brown.
Carol makes a mean potato salad.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, Zach Brown is a man from Columbus, Ohio.
She makes a great guacamole too. Did you know that?
I heard
Yeah, legendary, actually.
Mean guac. Zach Brown lives in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, yes, sorry.
And he started a Kickstarter to make potato salad. Now, it sounds silly, and it is silly, but he said, I need $10, back this project, help me make potato salad.
No.
I've never made potato salad before. And guess what? People chipped in a lot of money. In fact, as of now, he has raised $60,000 to make potato salad.
You can make a lot of potato salad.
And, well,
by
that's
the way,
the
even
thing.
for $10, you don't need $10 to make potato salad.
$10 is a lot of potato salad.
No.
That's a lot of potato salad.
Spend a couple of bucks for 6 potatoes and a little olive oil, a little mayonnaise, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Don't give away Carol's recipe.
But he's got a whole list of incentives, right? Like when you contribute to Kickstarter, you get an incentive. One of them is he will send you some of the potato salad.
Of course, yes.
Others will be he will say your name while he's making the potato salad. It's a really goofy thing, but apparently there are $60,000 worth of morons who will give money to this kid.
It's not a goofy thing. It's a great scam.
Oh, sure, yeah. But if you're just going to give your money to somebody to make potato salad, you have too much money.
I think I'm going to do a Kickstarter to make linguine with clam.
Sure. New York yesterday announced that Uber is going to cap their prices during emergencies. Now, Uber, the taxi replacement service, I guess is one way to call it. One of the things that they're known for is when there's a high demand for Uber, their prices go up by 1.5%, 2 times, 3 times, and they go way up depending on how many people are using Uber. Well, what they've said is in case of emergency for either weather or convulsion of nature, failure or shortage of electric power or other source of energy, strike, civil disorder, war, military action, national or local emergency, they will cap their prices and will not continue to raise them to surge prices.
Cap at what level?
Well, they said that what they're going to do is they're going to go back the last couple of months, see the highest that it's gone, and will not let it go any higher than the average of the highs over the last couple of months.
I'm skeptical.
I don't disagree.
I love Uber. I use it, but they got me once in a storm.
Yeah.
And the driver was on the way at the regular price, canceled.
Yeah.
I had to go then rebook, and when I rebooked, it was 2.5 times the original price. what would cost me probably a $9 cab fare was $60.
Wow.
Well, I don't disagree.
$60 right here in Washington, D.C.
New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman is the one that sort of pushed them in this direction. So we'll see if he leans on them to make sure they keep it upheld. And we know that The View is looking for some new hosts. We mentioned yesterday Sarah Palin has put her own name out there as a possible host.
Yeah, she put her own name out there.
She did. She did. No one was talking about it but her. However, it's a different story for Rosie O'Donnell. TMZ is reporting that she is deep in talks to rejoin The View, and they even say that it's very close to a done deal. Now, you will remember she was previously a host on The View, but she left. Notably, but one of the big issues she had is because she kept getting into these arguments with Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
Right.
Hasselbeck is gone, so maybe that will be enough to bring Rosie back.
Huh. Well,
Rosie did a good job on The View.
Rosie did a good job. Yeah, she's outspoken.
Yeah, she certainly is.
Gotta be, I guess. 16 minutes after the hour. Yes, indeed, immigration. Immigration is the number one issue. It's where we start today. It's what everybody is talking about, particularly this problem at the border. With this flood of kids crossing the border, kids who want to be caught, by the way. These are unlike people who come here and want to escape and go out of their way to escape our border agents and fleeing all the way up to try to look for jobs here in the United States. These are kids who want to be caught at the border because they think they're going to get a deal and be able to stay here in the United States. Kids not from Mexico, most of them, by far, the great majority of these kids, of course, from Central America. Take a look at the map sometime. Mexico's no tiny little country. That's a long way from the border to El Salvador, Honduras, or Guatemala, where these kids are coming from. A couple of quick updates. Number one is President Obama yesterday asked Congress for two things to deal with this problem. One, a supplemental appropriation of $3.8 billion to put more resources at the border and to hire more judges to deal with deportation hearings. We'll get to that in just a second. And secondly, he asked for more flexibility under the law to deal with, again, so many people coming from not from Mexico, but from other countries in Central America, so that the Department of Homeland Security has more resources and more options, let's say, in dealing with this. The second thing happening today is the president, and spending a night in Denver, is going down to Texas today. He will hold a meeting with local officials involved with this immigration people and faith leaders involved with immigration, particularly those who are trying to bring some humanitarian assistance to people crossing the border illegally. And the sort of who's crashing the party today is Texas Governor Rick Perry, the same governor who last week called President Obama incompetent, didn't understand the issue, the same governor who refused to appear at the airport to greet the president and to shake his hand, then turned around and begged to meet with the president. And finally, Josh Earnest explained to us yesterday at the White House why the White House decided to invite him to this meeting.
We thought it made sense here to extend an invitation to Governor Perry to allow him to participate in that meeting with other Texans who are seeking to address the situation in a constructive manner. So we're looking forward to Governor Perry participating in that meeting.
Yeah. In other words, Perry demanded a meeting, and the White House said, "Okay, well, we already have this meeting set up with these real Texans. Maybe if you want to come along, that would be okay." So Perry finally said he would show up. So that's the latest news on this. But we come back to the big issue, and this is what I'd like to get your take on as to what we ought to do about this problem. I don't think this is complicated. I think they're making it too complicated. Look, there are two things here. We have and they both add up to the same thing. We have to take care of these kids. These are children crossing the border. You can't just let them loose into the desert, as Lindsey Graham suggested. You can't just throw them back across the Rio Grande and say, "Good luck, see you later." Yeah, I mean, come on. Number one, there is the law. This is a law, the trafficking law, signed by George W. Bush. voted on overwhelmingly by Republicans and Democrats in Congress that says, and this is because so many kids were being taken advantage of at the time by sex traffickers, is saying, okay, they said two things. If these kids are from Mexico, boom, across the border they go without delay, boom. If they're from anywhere else, we put them in a detention center. We hold them in a detention center until they can have a hearing in front of a judge, a deportation hearing. And then the judge will decide whether or not they go back to their country of origin or whether they're able to stay with family members here or we can somehow or other relocate them. That's what the law requires, signed by George W. Bush. You know, you can't accuse President Obama of not following the law if, in fact, he is following the law in this case, or breaking law if, in fact, he's doing what the law requires.
I mean, if he breaks that law, hell, who knows? Maybe John Boehner would sue him.
John Boehner might sue him, yeah, right. And then the other thing is, it's just the right thing to do. It's a humanitarian thing to do. Again, these are children. You can't just turn them loose in a rattlesnake country down there. No. So what I think the president ought to do, I don't understand why he hasn't said this, is just stand up and say, I don't care what you say, Lindsey Graham. I don't care what you say, John McCain. I don't care what you say, Rick Perry. These are children. I'm going to obey the law. I'm going to take care of these kids and do what the law requires. And yeah, we'll do everything we can to speed up the process. But we're not just going to turn them loose. We're going to hold them, take care of them, change their diapers or whatever they need, right? Until such time as they can get in front of a judge. They can make their case, they can explain their situation, and the judge will decide what happens to them, whether they stay here, whether they go back. And as the White House has said, the vast majority of them will be sent home because they don't have any real case to be able to stay in this country. But for now, I say, do what the law requires, do the right thing, take care of these children. That's who we are. It's what we ought to do. Do the right thing. Don't you think? It's not complicated. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS. You tell me what we do about 52,000 kids crossing the border.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 26 minutes after the hour, 27 make it after the hour now, talking about this situation border President Obama is dealing with. Asked for Congress for $3.8 billion yesterday to deal with the flood of children crossing the border now. Peter?
We're on Twitter at BP Show, at BP Show. Phil chiming in says the GOP are acting like they don't care about kids unless they are still in the womb.
Lindsey Graham says, yeah, this is easy. Just send them all back.
Yeah.
Just turn them right back. Right, every one of them. Yeah.
Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show.
All right. Here we go to Rose out in Ligonier, Indiana. Hello, Rose. Good morning.
Hey, morning, guys. Hey. My comment is some of these kids, particularly the ones that are unchaperoned.
Well, they all are, I think.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
most of them are. But why don't we see about getting them adopted by some of the families here that go all over the world? And here is a gift being presented to those that really do want kids.
Well, I don't... I hear what you're saying. It's not as simple as that. No. Some of these kids may not want to be adopted, right? I mean, some of these kids, when I say kids, some of them are 16, 17, 18, right?
Yeah, there's some, though, that are really young, and if the parents are that concerned, there's no other option, if it was mine, to send them back to basically the hell they're coming from. The parents might think, well, this will give them a chance at a future.
I know, Rose, I hear you. I think it's a little more complicated than that. I also think the parents have some say in whether or not their kids are adopted. But they still have parents. More calls coming up.
Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. you could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
$9.67. So we're talking about this latest twist, if you will, in the immigration thing. All of this, of course, is in the context of Republicans in Congress, in the House, I should say, refusing to deal with the issue of immigration reform, even though 14 Republican senators voted for the comprehensive immigration reform bill that President Obama put forward, which is identical for all practical purposes to the immigration reform plan put forward by George W. Bush when he was in the White House. It's the right thing to do. It takes care of the problem of employers hiring people here illegally. It takes care of the problem and puts more resources at the border to secure the border. And it provides a path to citizenship for those 11 to 12 to 15 million people who are here illegally and have been here for a long time. So it's the comprehensive approach to this. Again, we have a Senate bill. The problem is it went to the House, and John Boehner will not even schedule. The votes are there in the House. The votes are there. This is the way that it used to work, right? One House passes, one House of Congress passes some legislation, goes to the other House. They debate it. They have a vote. The two houses get together. They send a bill to the Congress. Doesn't work anymore. Now, Senate's doing its job. The House just is doing nothing. So in the concept of that doing nothing, here suddenly we've got this problem with 52,000 kids crossing the border. And don't you love it? So the Republicans say, Obama's doing nothing about this. He's doing nothing about this. Boom. So Congress says yesterday, put your money where your mouth is. Okay? You want me to solve this problem? You want me to put some more people at the border? More judges, more border patrol, whatever? Okay? I need the money to do it. Ask for $3.8 billion. And, of course, here's Mitch McConnell.
We're going to have to take a look at it and see what he's asking for and how it appropriately, if it appropriately, responds to the crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So once Obama says, now I'm going to fix it, then you would think McConnell would say, good for the president. He's dealing with this issue. We're going to join him. We're going to deal with this issue. No. McConnell, wet blanket over it. Why? Because Obama wants it.
That's it.
Yeah. Classic. But again, back to what we ought to do with these kids, I think we ought to do what the law, exactly what the law requires, and that is the humanitarian thing. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Let's talk about it. Certainly. I mean, Lindsey Graham is just out of his mind to say, the answer is just turn them all loose. Send them back. Peter,
before we get to phone calls, don't forget you can also weigh in on any topic at any time on Twitter at BP Show.
Yes,
Follow us there. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Always watching there. KG says, if the U.S. can't open itself to deal with abandoned children, we should just take down the Statue of Liberty.
Good point.
Comment.
Yeah, again, these are children we're talking about right here, right?
Yeah.
And you're seriously, again, look at the map, right? I mean, it takes a long time just to get from Tijuana to Cabo San Lucas.
Right.
Now we're talking about going from, the Rio Grande all the way down to El Salvador.
That's it. Yeah.
Man, I've been down there many times. That's a long way.
Beverly Sweeney also chiming in, says all of the senators and Congress people who say that we should send the children back should have to go with them.
Well, there are certainly a few of them I would like to go with them, as long as it were a one-way trip.
That's it.
Yeah. By the way, Josh Earnest yesterday also at the briefing talked about this difference between how we deal with children from Mexico, which, by the way, I even have some questions about sending the kids from Mexico directly back. Because, again, Mexico is a big country. It's not like everybody in Mexico lives right across the border.
Right.
Know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Here's Josh Earnest.
If somebody is detained along the Mexican border who's from Mexico, it's easy to just sort of turn them around and they're back in their home country. If an immigrant from Honduras, for example, is detained at the U.S.-Mexico border, getting them back to Honduras requires additional resources and requires some additional steps.
Yeah, indeed it does. A long air flight, for one thing. Plus, as Josh indicated, sending them back to these countries is not as easy as it sounds either, because these are the killing fields. One of the reasons parents, and there has been enough talk about this, why parents would send their kids off by themselves, all of that distance, in the hands of questionable characters. Why would they do it? Things at home have to be really, really pretty bad, and they are. So to release them back into that situation could be fatal, right? And so we want to be sure, working with the host countries, that if they come back, there's going to be some safe place, some sanctuary for them in their own country. Again, because that's a humanitarian responsibility that we've got, not just to let these kids loose. Helen has got a comment from up in Ithaca, New York, on the great WNYY. Hello, Helen.
Well, before I say something serious, I love that idea to have Republican members of the House escort each child.
Yes.
With a one-way ticket.
Yeah,
Bye.
starting with Lindsey Graham, right?
Right, yeah. Good. All right, go do your volunteer work down there, please, because you're not doing anything here. But on the serious side, I mean, no matter what, two quick points. One is we've got to have a philanthropic organization, and I wish I was a multi-millionaire and I could just write a check myself, but to do some research and you got to be kind of brave, you got to send some psychologists and sociologists down there and try to find out what actually is going on. And that's not our responsibility, but our responsibility is just being a decent human being is to protect. These are helpless, innocent kids, and some of them are like young adolescents who actually carried their infant siblings with them,
Yeah, I know. The stories are just heartrending.
And then the second point is what we have to talk about parents' rights too, because I don't know how these children left their homes. That's why the first point was how is this happening? But we need. I've been following this for the past month. I'm not so terribly I'm an expert at it, but the parents have rights, so we just can't the lady who called before. We can't just adopt these kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Exactly. Right. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right on both points, Helen. And I heard one. There was a bishop I saw in the news somewhere who was talking about this, saying that we really need to know what's going on in this country and the conditions that are behind this flood of immigrants, right, of children, the things that they got to be so bad to prompt a parent to let their child, begin this whole venture, right? Yeah. And number one, and number two, that parents in so doing, they're still their kids, and they still have rights, and they still have they have a role here, and we just can't ignore them. They got to be part of the process as well. It is a complicated issue, but again, I think for the president, it's very easy. That what he ought to do is say, I'm going to obey the law. I'm going to do what the law requires. I'm going to do the right thing as an individual, as a humanitarian. I am going to protect these children, and then let the wolves howl. I don't care what they say. I think the American people would be with the president on this. Let's find out more about what the president's up to on this venture and what the latest is at the White House from David Jackson, who covers the White House for USA Today, coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes now before the top of the hour. Wednesday morning, July 9. Played a couple of clips a little bit earlier from the briefing yesterday with Josh Earnest. You know, you almost feel sorry for Josh Earnest. Every day he's got to get up, go in the White House, and spend hours and hours preparing to walk into that briefing room and face tigers like David Jackson, who covers the White House for USA Today, joining us on our news line this morning. Hey,
I'm
David.
a pussycat, Bill. You know that.
Yeah.
I actually had to ask a question yesterday because I'm trying to pin down whether, in fact, President Obama and Governor Perry will meet one-on-one.
I know. It was a good question. And
The White House has been pretty squirrely about it, but Perry's people are confident he's going to get a one-on-one, so we'll see.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is kind of funny on that meeting. Let's start right there. Perry said, last week, what did he call the president, like incompetent or something like that?
He also seemed to think that it was some kind of conspiracy on the border, but
yeah,
he didn't explain how Obama would benefit from this.
Right, yeah, that Obama was behind it. And then he said he wouldn't shake his hand at the airport.
Right.
But then he said, he won the one-on-one meeting, and then the White House turns around and invites him to join this meeting that they had already set up with some faith leaders and others.
Right.
So,
but you read Valerie Jarrett sent him a letter late Monday. If you read it closely, she invites him to this group meeting, but she also says, in addition, she says, the president will meet with you, and in addition, we want you to come to this group meeting. So the White House technically has extended both invitations to him, and I'm sure, the president can't very well turn down a private meeting with the governor of the state he's in. So I'm sure they'll get together privately.
They almost have to just step aside, right, in some little adjoining room or something like that, right? Yeah.
Right.
But the big thing, starting in with the trip last night, the president seeing Denver, Dallas, and Austin in these next couple of days. The bear was on the loose again last night.
Wow, on the streets of Denver. Watch out. Yeah.
Watch out, I know.
Yeah, apparently after he landed, he walked the streets shaking hands, went to a pizza parlor, and to meet, I think at the pizza parlor he met people who had written him letters.
Five people who wrote him letters.
That was the main inspiration. And he wound up shooting pool somehow with the governor of Colorado, and I guess that was an interesting thing, too. But I'm sure many of his critics will tweet out the pictures of him playing pool and say, why is he not at the border?
Of course. Yeah, right. I mean, this is the new thing, right? Setting the bear loose. I mean, Dan Pfeiffer even put out a blog yesterday about that. I mean,
there's a lot of truth to it. I mean, like his predecessors, the president doesn't like the confines of the White House and is tired of just spending all day in the same office, and he wants to get out and see people and meet, quote, real people, end quote, at least as much as the president can do. So he's got orders to his staff to try to get him out in the real world, and last night was a manifestation of it.
Right. Now, on the border, there's action, of course, in Texas we talk about, but the president asking Congress for the supplemental appropriation yesterday. It's got to be hard for Congress to turn that down, isn't it?
I would think so. Although a lot of people poo-pooed it, but yeah, because the price tag went from $2 billion to nearly $4 billion over the course of a week, so that raised a few eyebrows. But I think you're right. I think ultimately they'll have to do something because they'll have to be seen as doing something to combat these problems on the border.
It's almost put your money where your mouth is, sort of,
right.
In a sense, right? I mean, you
Exactly.
can't complain about not doing anything and then turn around and not give us the money we need to do something, right?
And Boehner's people have been pretty demure about it. I'm sure they'll round up the votes to get it. Obviously, the Democrats will go for it. I'm sure the Republicans can find enough votes to get it through the House.
One thing that sitting there in the briefing yesterday, I never heard a clear answer to whether, and I don't know why, to whether or not. So the president wants a supplemental appropriation. That's part of it. Then he wants more flexibility under the law. Does that mean changing the law? Does that mean a new legislation? How did you read that?
They're prepared to go either way. I think they'd like for Congress to change the law and give him a freer hand in dealing with these migrants, particularly the children. But the impression I'm getting is that he feels like he has the executive authority to kind of do what he wants.
Maybe just Congress has to say, yeah, you can do
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would love the congressional cover to change the policy, but I think they also feel like he has the authority anyway.
Now, David, I'm sure you saw the New York Times, a stunning story this morning. We've been talking the last few briefings about this a German citizen who was recruited by the CIA to spy on Germany for the United States. New York Times reports this morning that Obama didn't even know about it.
Oh, we don't want the president to know about something like that. I mean, you got to give your leader deniability.
Well, yeah,
I'm sure Merkel was. I read that story too, but my take was a little bit different because to me, my understanding is the White House is upset because when Obama called Merkel, the arrest had been made and he didn't know about the arrest. I'm sure he didn't want to know about the spy.
I got it, right. But even the arrest, he didn't know. So Merkel knew and did not raise they talked last Thursday,
right?
About World Cup and about Ukraine and other important issues. This guy had already been arrested.
Right.
She knew it. He didn't. Why wouldn't the president know? I mean, wouldn't you be pissed off at the CIA director?
Well, it's lousy staff work. Yeah, I don't know. I assume the CIA didn't know he was going to make the call, and although they should have, he's been talking to Merkel for weeks and weeks. It should have gone up to the chain a lot quicker than it did.
Isn't Brennan the guy who briefs the president every morning?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of mystery to that spy story, and if you also notice, and I've heard this too, Saxby Chambliss said that there's less than meets the eye to this spy story. That maybe some of the allegations aren't true. So I'll be very curious to see how this turns out, or if we find out how it turns out. Because a couple of days ago when it broke, I did a story on it, and the implication was that the administration was going to address this and may even apologize for it. Well, yesterday they took a much harder line. They're not saying anything about it. So I think they're still ascertaining the facts about who did what when, and we'll see. But I'm also detecting a bit of resentment of the Germans for complaining so much because, let's face it, countries spy on each other. I'm sure there are German spies right here in Washington.
Oh, yeah, you know that there are. Probably was not as much excitement in the briefing room for yesterday's World Cup game, by the way, was there?
Well, a stunned silence, just like most of Brazil. It was shocking to watch that.
I think just like most of the planet. Yeah.
Right. It's going to be interesting if Germany does go out and win the World Cup. It wouldn't shock me if Obama called Merkel to congratulate her on the World Cup and also talk about this spy situation. It'll obviously have to be dealt with in some form.
That may give him a good excuse to talk about something other than the spy, for sure. All right, David. Enjoy it as always, and thanks so much for your time. And no briefing today, so
no briefing. He's out in Denver, and our Denver bureau's taking care of it. So it should be an easy day for me, anyway.
All right, you got it. Thanks so much, David.
Thanks,
Talk to you later. All right, David Jackson does a great job at the White House. Good friend for USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
she's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Congressman Dan Kildee from Michigan coming up next. Peter.
Lindsey Graham may have some trouble in South Carolina. Reality TV star and former South Carolina State Treasurer Thomas Ravenel announced that he is launching an independent bid against Senator Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. He was a Republican. He was in the Republican Party. He was kicked out as treasurer for a cocaine bust. He's on this reality TV show Southern Charm now, and he says he's the guy to beat Lindsey Graham. He announced on 4th of July that he can do it. He's running as independent. Just needs 10,000 signatures by July 15th.
I thought it was too late to get on the ballot again.
It's close, but not yet.
Uh-oh. Watch out, Lindsey Graham.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning. What do you say? It is Wednesday, July 9, and this is the Bill Press Show. That's me. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, as we do every weekday morning, Monday through Friday, for 3 hours right here on Free Speech TV and on our video stream worldwide at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Hey, the bear was on the loose again last night out in Denver, the president having dinner with 5 Americans who had written him letters concerning their problems and their lives dealing with this sputtering economy. And then afterwards, the president left the restaurant, and instead of jumping back into his limousine, he's decided to take a stroll through the neighborhood, surprising shop owners and shoppers in that little section of Denver. Today, the president moves on to Dallas, where he will meet with a group of local leaders about immigration problems at the border, also leaders of the faith community. At the very last minute, invited is Texas Governor Rick Perry, who last week said the president was incompetent on the issue of immigration, but then turned around and begged to be invited to this meeting with the president. On the immigration front, President Obama yesterday asked Congress for a supplemental $3.8 billion to deal with the flood of young kids, 52,000 so far, who have crossed the border, most of them coming up from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Meanwhile, New York Times reporting that President Obama didn't even know about this German citizen the United States, the CIA, had recruited to spy on Germany for us. What a colossal embarrassment. Almost as embarrassing as Brazil's 7-1 loss to Germany in the World Cup yesterday. All of that and more coming up here. Look forward to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS on the Bill Press Show this Wednesday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. trust. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
The Bill Press Show.
They're calling it the German massacre. Oh my God, it was not pretty yesterday. Brazil put on a great World Cup, but they're not going to be part of the finals. 7-1. Good morning, everybody. Wednesday, July 9. Great to see you this morning on this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show. Right here, we start in our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building, and booming out to you all across this great country of ours, coast to coast, north, south, east, west. We are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station. We are there with you on Free Speech TV. Thank you for joining us. There with you on the TuneIn app. It's free. Download it and go to the Progressive Voice channel. You'll find us. And we're there with you worldwide. Hats off to Germany this morning. Good job yesterday. You might have let up a little bit on the host team, anyhow. But hats off on our video stream at Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. And being this close to the Capitol, you know, the nice thing is you never know who's going to just stop by on their way to work in the morning. The doors are always open. Congressman Dan Kildee, from a good friend from Michigan, joining us this morning. Hey, Congressman, always good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thanks for getting up early for us.
I just wandered by. I came in to ask for directions, and you told me to turn left.
Yeah. I don't have to tell
everybody to turn left.
Right. But I don't have to tell you to turn left.
That's
true. Just like nobody. In fact, if anybody tells me to turn right, I just say I can't. Right. And we have Peregrine coffee downstairs, right? So it's worth coming by just to get a good cup downstairs. Yeah. And you join our team this morning, of course, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Alicia Cruz got the week off, so Javon Paris, filling in. Hi, Javon. Good morning. With Monty Kensler, our videographer, filling in for Cyprian Bolding this morning as well. So we've got the whole crew, everything covered this morning. And Congressman, I don't know whether you remember Joan Rivers, right?
Oh yeah,
don't we all? It seems like I just can't believe she's like still around and still at it. You know,
until you mentioned her, I didn't know whether she was still around or not.
she is and feistier than ever. So she went on CNN last week. She's got a new book out, and Frederica Whitfield, the anchor, Joan Rivers thought that she was asking too many negative questions, too many mean questions. She got very mad at her. She got up and left, actually walked off the interview.
You're not supposed to do that.
No, you're not supposed to do that, but got pretty ugly. So last night, Joan Rivers went on with David Letterman, talking about this experience. And you can see, man, I wouldn't want to tangle with Joan Rivers. She's still got a lot of fire left in her. Here she is.
What was the woman's name?
I don't know.
Yeah. and you felt that she was being...
very judgmental, very nasty, very opinionated. Negative. It was like my wedding night, you know? It was like just... How long have you interviewed people? There's certain things, when someone sits down, you don't say, you look nice, but what's that smell? That starts an interview wrong.
You don't want to do that, no.
You know, it's like when you talk to the Olsen twins, you don't say things like, so what's your favorite place to vomit? I mean, there's certain things...
No, you don't do that.
It was really nasty. It was really mean. It was really ugly. It was like my wedding night. I mean...
Well, Bill, I've had about enough of this.
No, yeah, right. It's like a certain brand of humor that nobody else uses anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
It's sort of only her. But anyhow, God love her. She's still got a lot of life left in her.
I
for
guess
sure.
so.
So Congressman Dan Kildee here with us for our first half hour. Then we're going to check in with the reporter from Chicago Sun-Times about the horrific situation in Chicago, the violence there, and that record 17 now deaths over the 4th of July weekend, and what's being done about in Chicago. In the next hour, Sabrina Siddiqui will be here as a friend of Bill from Huffington Post. Congressman, we'll get right to the issues of the day, but first, Peter, the big headlines of the day.
The Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Tuesday night, Japan and Australia signed their economic partnership agreement, which is a big deal for the two countries. So they celebrated, the two prime ministers, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Prime Minister Tony Abbott from Australia. They celebrated with a big dinner. Problem is, Prime Minister Abbott had a very early morning TV hit the next morning, and one of the hosts said, quote, "You look a little bit worse for wear, if I don't mind you saying this morning. Did you get into the sakes with the Japanese Prime Minister?"
Oh.
The Prime Minister of Australia had to admit it was a very convivial dinner. A very convivial dinner. I accept that.
Oh.
So he got...
Sounds like you have plastered. I guess so.
He got a little turned up and then had to go on a very early media hit. So
Down under.
That's the lesson.
He was plowed under.
If you got an early morning media hit, take it easy the night before.
I went to bed early last
You look much
night.
better than the Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. The RNC is taking their talents to Cleveland. Cleveland, Ohio will host the 2016 Republican National Convention. It was down to two cities, Cleveland and Dallas, Texas. They sided with Cleveland. They said that it's more walkable city, and of course the fact that it's a swing state doesn't hurt issues either.
Yeah, they think they're going to win Ohio by holding their convention there, Congressman.
Well, I don't think it works that way. Although I'm glad they're going to Cleveland. It's one of those old industrial cities that needs more attention.
Yeah, right. No, it's a good move for them to go to the Rust Belt, but they're still going to lose Ohio.
Yes, I think you're right.
And Frontier Airlines Flight 719 had a very interesting flight on Monday. It left Washington, D.C. It was supposed to land in Denver, but weather forced it to circle around for about an hour, and then low fuel levels forced it to land at Cheyenne Regional Airport in Wyoming. There were 160 passengers on board, and they got obviously a little upset at the situation. The captain, who has not been named, came over the intercom and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Frontier Airlines is known for being one of the cheapest airlines in the United States, but your captain is not cheap. I just ordered pizza for the entire plane."
Whoa.
He picked up the phone, he called Domino's, and put in an order for 160 people. Turned out to be about 35 pizzas. The driver handed off the food to the flight attendants, passed them out to the passengers on the plane, and that helped matters out a little bit.
Worth the trip to Cheyenne.
Yeah. Good for him. I was talking to a friend of mine over the weekend. I didn't realize Frontier Airlines is really cheap. You have to pay for a Coke on Frontier.
Super cheap.
Yeah, you have to pay for carry-on.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Pitch in for gas? Is that the way they do it?
I think so, yeah. Right.
They have a little jar out front. Need a little help with gas money, man.
So to get that pizza is a really big deal
That's
on
it.
Frontier, yeah. On any airline, to tell the truth. Thank you, Peter. Well, Congressman, so much to talk about. Let's start with the job numbers that came out last week. We saw on Monday, that 288,000 new private sector jobs created here in the month of June. I think it's the fourth or fifth month in a row that's been over 200,000.
Right.
So Republicans are saying right away, this proves we don't need unemployment insurance because look at the new jobs we're creating, and the unemployment level dropped from 6.3 to 6.1%.
Well, if only it were so. The problem is, of course, that the job numbers are great unless you're not one of the people who got one of those jobs. And they can't have it both ways. They can't, on one hand, say that the Obama administration has wrecked the American economy with the Affordable Care Act, with overregulation, with a tax policy that we obviously know in that case we might need to deal with that problem. But they can't say that this is a president who has driven us over an economic cliff, but then say that, look, we've got economic growth and job creation that's taking place, and we don't need unemployment for those that are still struggling. The truth is somewhere in between. And I think the notion that we can't do both,
really,
right?
don't
The
you?
notion
Yeah.
that we can't have
Yeah.
modest economic growth. This is not the kind of robust growth that we need to get to full employment.
Right.
Nor
Amen.
are the jobs compensated in such a way that we've really created a sustainable economy going forward. We still need to do a lot in that regard. But what's to say that we can't continue to offer a hand of assistance to those that are still between the last job and the next job to prevent them from losing everything that they've worked for their entire lives? We can do both. There isn't anything about policy that paints us into a corner that prevents us from helping those who are in need.
So despite these, the reality is that despite this, and let's salute and be grateful for the 288,000 people who got these new jobs, there are still millions of people long-term unemployed.
Right.
And,
and they're struggling. 3 million people have lost their benefits. 300,000 of them are American veterans. I mean, so often, we talk about, particularly here, the Republicans, trying to claim moral high ground when it comes to supporting those who put on the uniform of the country. The most important thing we can do is help them pay their rent until they get their next job.
So
but they're not willing to do that.
Is there any hope of any legislative?
There's a possibility. So I introduced legislation to extend, this was several months ago, paid-for legislation to extend unemployment for another 5 months. It's sort of the time has come and gone on that. I now have worked with a Republican in the House. We put 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans together. We introduced bipartisan legislation to extend unemployment for an additional 5 months from the point that we enact it. It's not the bill that I would have written. It's not the same bill that I introduced a few months ago, but it's the same legislation that Senator Reid and Senator Heller have introduced over in the Senate.
In the Senate. I was going to ask you about that.
So,
right.
I mean, we have given the Republican leadership a lot. And now sort of called their bluff. Initially, Boehner said he won't consider it unless it's paid for. We came up with a way to pay for it. Still nothing. Months pass, nothing. Now we have a bill that unfortunately does not include retroactivity. I would have preferred to have it include retroactivity, but at least from this point forward, folks who are unemployed would pick up where they left off when they lost their unemployment and continue to receive assistance till they either their benefits would expire or they get another job. So they can have it the way they want to have it. We've presented to them in a bipartisan fashion, 4 of us, 4 of them, and I'm sure we'll have lots of others. I'm just not sure that they see this in their narrative, that somehow this is government involvement in our economy, and they just won't embrace it. So I hope that they do, though.
Even in this case, with the 4 Republicans, I mean, can't they go to their speaker and say this is good for our party to do this?
I think they have a real struggle within, and there's a lot of factions within the Republican conference. A small but hopefully growing faction is the Practical Caucus within their conference, the group that says, look, we were sent here to solve these problems, not just to offer speeches and pat ourselves on the back for how right we are. We were actually sent here to get things done. And what we're talking about is a modest, not unreasonable proposal. It simply provides for extended unemployment for those who lost their benefits and those who are losing their work to get them to the next job. It's something that we've done in the past. In fact, George W. Bush signed unemployment extension without it being paid for. Here we have it paid for. It's bipartisan. It does not include the retroactivity that I preferred and that other members of our conference would have preferred. It's reasonable. And they still won't. Well, we'll see. I don't want to prejudge.
Right.
We just introduced it last week, but it's concerning that it hasn't been embraced by their leadership.
You would go to what committee?
This would go to Ways and Means.
Ways and Means.
Yeah.
Right. We will watch that and talk to you about it as it moves along, and hope it does start to move along. Meanwhile, yesterday the president, in effect, said to Republicans in Congress, "Okay, you are complaining about this flood of all these kids coming across the border, 52,000 of them so far, which does really stretch our resources there. You want me to do something about it? You want me to speed up the process? I will. I'm ready to do so. Put your money where your mouth is. $3.8 billion, and we'll fix the problem." Is there any way, can Republicans turn this down?
Well, they seem capable of turning down every reasonable
that's the
offer.
answer, right.
But, it makes the case as to why all this policy matters. Why do we need comprehensive immigration reform? It's not an abstraction. It's not just because, it's on our list of things that we think we ought to do. There are real issues. There are real problems that we're facing, and this is now one of them. This is manifest in what we're dealing with right now. So the notion that we can have this problem solved without dealing with immigration and without dealing with the lack of resources available to adjudicate these cases is, it's folly. But again, this is a case where I think very often the Republican conference tends to put the political narrative first.
Oh, totally.
Dealing with problems is secondary, and in fact, sometimes counterproductive in terms of what they think their interests might be. There are 50,000 human beings, human lives that are in jeopardy. Lots of people reacting. Children.
Yeah,
Children.
right. Yeah.
Lots of people reacting. The hyperbole is over the top. We see demonstrations taking place all over the country on this subject. What kind of a country are we? I mean, these are children who are fleeing their home countries, often because of horrible violence, in some cases fear of sexual abuse and all sorts of horrendous experiences. Now, will some of them not qualify for asylum? Well, of course.
Yeah.
But that judgment has to be made, and it has to be made
within that process.
So the idea that we would, I would think across the spectrum, there would be a willingness to embrace this supplemental and say whether you're pro-immigration reform or not, that when we have a problem that needs to be solved with resources to adjudicate these cases and get them either settled here or sent back home, that's what we should be doing. This isn't a border security issue per se. The fact is, we have these young people. It's not like they penetrated the border and we're out there trying to find them. They're in our custody, so it's a real problem.
Got to deal with it. I would hope that this is something where, again, both parties that could come together. As you said it earlier, they can't have it both ways. They can't complain about doing nothing and then not give the resources to do nothing. Congressman Dan Kildee from Michigan, here from Michigan's 5th Congressional District, in the studio with us. Your questions, your comments on the issues we're talking about, always welcome at 866-55-PRESS. When we come back, Speaker Boehner says he's going to sue the president for trying to do something. Where's that going? We'll find out when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it. And they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, Congressman Dan Kildee with us in studio from Michigan. Congressman, I'm sorry we ran the clock there because we just have about a minute left, but I got to get your take on this John Boehner threatened lawsuit against President Obama.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, I think it's obviously a posturing move. He's trying to pander again to the base. The notion that this president has overreached, I understand they may disagree with some of the decisions that he's made, but presidents use their executive authority. It's not as if they're a sort of a storekeeper. He's the president of the United States. He's got authority and he should exercise it. But interestingly enough, the John Boehner seems to be willing to use extraordinary authority to prevent legislation from coming to the floor that a majority of the House would support. So if we want to start examining one's overreach of authority, John Boehner ought to take a close look in the mirror rather than looking across the city at the White House.
And Boehner uses his authority to do nothing. The president is trying to use his authority to do something.
I think the president got exactly right. If he's not willing to do his job, meaning Boehner, it shouldn't prevent the president from getting his work done.
This
well said. Thanks,
is
Congressman.
the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, it's 33 minutes after the hour. This is Wednesday morning, July 9, The Bill Press Show. Coming to you live all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV. Brought to you this morning by the American Federation of Government Employees, good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox, proud to work for America every day. And for more information, you can visit their website at afge.org. Among our great affiliates, none bigger, none better than WCPT in Chicago. Chicago experiencing a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, a lot of shock these days because of the horrific death toll and shooting toll over the 4th of July weekend. Latest count that I've seen, 84 people shot, 17 now fatalities. Michael Lansu is the Homicide Watch Chicago editor for the Chicago Sun-Times, who joins us on our newsline this morning. Just the fact that the Chicago Sun-Times need a Homicide Watch editor says a lot about what's happening in that city. Michael, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine. Did I get the count right? Is that the latest, 84 and 17 dead?
You know, it sort of depends on when you call the start of the holiday weekend, but we had 11 more people shot overnight. 3 of them have died.
11 more people shot overnight last night?
Overnight last night.
Jesus. Whoa.
Grief.
So, yeah, I wouldn't call this the holiday weekend. This is...
No, but it hasn't slowed down a whole lot.
Are these deaths occurring in the same neighborhoods, Michael, and where are these neighborhoods? And tell us about them.
Well, let me start back on the holiday weekend.
Yeah.
You know, there was a stretch of 77 hours where there were 71 people shot. During that time, 13 of those people died. A majority of those shootings happened on the south side and the west side, especially in neighborhoods that have had traditionally high violence. Sources told the Chicago Sun-Times, though, that a lot of the shootings on the south side were not necessarily gang-related. A lot of this just involved fights stemming from people being out, drinking, doing drugs, you know, and then violence stemmed from there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the shootings last night appeared to be on one of the major expressways in Chicago.
Well, and are these victims young people across a wide range of age and mostly Latin America? I mean, African Americans?
In general, most of the victims from the weekend were male, black, and Hispanic men between 20 and 35 years old, which is a little bit older than the common murder victim here. You know, our average age for a murder victim here is usually in the 18 to 22 range.
And even though you said some of the ones in the South were not gang-related, my understanding was that most of them, the deaths were. Is that correct?
A lot of the victims had gang affiliations. Police are still investigating whether or not the shootings themselves stemmed from gang rivalries or what we would traditionally call a gang shooting, fighting over drugs or turf, or if this was just people out partying and fights broke out.
And what do people say is the answer? I mean, what are people talking about? I mean, more cops or...
Well, Chicago police thought they were prepared. They, you know, for a little comparison, last 4th of July weekend had about the same number of shootings and homicide, except it was over a 4-day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago police expected there to be violence. They had hundreds of extra officers out on the streets. In the past couple of years, they've been putting extra officers in areas that they expect to be violent on any given night. And they sort of had the violence under control until Sunday. In the communities, people are more and more outraged.
At the cops?
At the violence in general.
That's part of the question that I wanted to get at is sort of what the temperature is like in Chicago among the citizens, right? Is this something that that you all are learning to just deal with, or are they fed up, or are they asking more of police, or do they just know to stay away from certain areas? What's the vibe of the Chicago citizen?
It's interesting. A little bit of all of that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on who you talk to and what neighborhood.
Yeah.
When I'm in these neighborhoods on the south side and the west side, some residents say, you know, oh, that's just how it is here and we've gotten used to it. Others are far more outraged by it. I've noticed a lot more community activism, the marches, the anti-violence rallies in recent months, but that's also because of the nicer weather. Mayor Rahm Emanuel had a press conference outside of a rally the other day where he called for stricter gun control laws.
And I wanted to ask, because I also saw it's Gary McCarthy, correct? Your police superintendent. He talked about, and he showed a lot of the guns that they had seized over the weekend too. I mean, is that the common consensus, that it's the easy accessibility and proliferation of guns in the wrong hands that's the problem here?
That's sort of the company line among Mayor Rahm Emanuel and Superintendent McCarthy. They've been pushing for stricter gun control laws for years now. It's interesting, even when you drive around on the expressways, there are billboards now that remind people if you buy a gun for somebody who legally cannot, you face up to 10 years in prison. So there is a big push here to try and get these illegal guns off the street, especially amongst politicians. But you don't hear that quite as much from people in the community.
Where are the guns coming from?
A lot of these are purchased illegally. Well, they're purchased legally in Indiana in the suburbs through gun shops, reported stolen when they're not actually stolen, and then sold to people who cannot purchase guns legally.
I when you talk about this, and you said when you talk to people in the South Side and the West Side, I don't know how to put this, but do you feel safe going into these neighborhoods?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I do. A lot of people would.
You do because you know them, you know the people, you know what hours to go in and out, or it doesn't make you think twice about going some of these?
Twice about it, but I go during the day, and if you keep your head up, you know what to look out for. I mean, you just sort of there are people who live in these neighborhoods who have been living there for years who are safe. If people are living there, there's no reason that I can't go down there and talk to them.
Right. And this is sort of along the lines of what Peter just asked you about the vibe of the people in these neighborhoods and the people. Is there any like homegrown movement among the people who live in this neighborhood to say, we have to protect our kids, or we've got to save our neighborhood and unite together to do what we can to stop this violence? It's not just the police coming in from the outside to do it, I guess. Any of that?
Yeah. There are several community groups on the South Side and on the West Side that are offering kids after-school programs, tutoring, places to go, various options that are much more community-based. The police department here has worked closely with the city's Department of Human Services to try and find kids after-school jobs, and other ways to cut down violence besides just traditional policing, both through the city and through some of these community organizations.
What percentage of, I'm sure this would be hard to judge, but would you say, what percentage of young kids, particularly these young black and Latino males in these neighborhoods, are gang members?
It's really hard to say. I get that question a lot.
There must be a lot of peer pressure, right, to join a gang, or did they have any choice? Almost.
Well, it's not like there's a roster like in basketball. Part of the problem is if you live on a block where all of your friends are in a street gang, if you're on your block, everybody knows on that block that you're not a member of that gang. But if you leave that block, everybody sees you as the person who's been hanging out with the gang members.
Therefore,
on your block.
Yeah.
So you cannot be in the gang but still be making those lifestyle choices and be associated with gang members that put you at risk.
Put you at risk. So you still become a target. I don't know. It is just baffling, and it's so sad and so tragic, and we're this far away, and we and I still feel moved by it, and you there in Chicago dealing with it every day. I don't know how you do it. Michael, thank you for your good work, and thanks for your time this morning. Lynn Sweet from Chicago Sun-Times is a good friend of ours, often in studio with us, so we'll tell her we were talking to you this morning. And
well, thank you very much for having me on, and have a good rest of the day.
All right. Thank you, and good luck to you and all the people of Chicago dealing with this. Anybody else from all of our great listeners out in Chicago at WCPT, what's going on? What do you think? What's the answer? 866-55-PRESS is the number here on the Bill Press Show. 11 more killed overnight in Chicago.
11 more shot.
11 more shot
overnight.
And 3, I think you said, right? 3 more fatalities. the killing has not stopped in Chicago. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Sabrina Siddiqui from Huffington Post joins us in the next hour as a friend of Bill, and then she and I will be joined by the co-director of the Dream Action Coalition to talk about the Dreamers and what should be done about immigration reform with Cesar Vargas. Now we're just talking with I'm still stunned by what Michael Lansu from the Chicago Sun-Times talks us, because we got him on the line. We had booked him to talk about the killings last weekend,
right,
and what's being done about it. And we find out that there were 11 more people shot overnight in Chicago last night. Didn't even know that until we got him on the phone this morning, and 3 of those killed. So the killing continues, and still people. You know, the police, the head of the police department, the mayor, local politicians, and residents of Chicago saying, you know, what the hell can we do to stem this violence, particularly, again, among the impacting young African-American and Latino males, ages, what do you say, average 22, 35.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most of them have been between the ages of like 18 and 22. he
Right,
said.
that it was a little bit older than
Yeah.
usual. I've a couple comments that have come in over on Twitter while we were talking to Mike. Mark weighed in and said the way to reduce gun violence in Chicago is the same way to reduce all crime, offer the population better economic opportunities. And someone even weighed in and wondered, didn't offer this up as an idea, but just wondered if it was time for the National Guard to maybe take a look at what was going on in Chicago.
I'm not sure I'd go there.
It's
but
harsh. It's certainly harsh.
Yeah, let's find. I mean, I think the answer it's more on the jobs and the school front, education and jobs. Heather is out in Chicago with her ideas. Hello, Heather. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. I listen to your show every day. I drive a private cab for kids who don't go to school in their district.
Yeah.
I have refused rides to go into those neighborhoods because it's just crazy. It's crazy down there. And I don't think, I do believe that education and jobs are a great idea, but I'm a single parent. I raised 3 kids on my own on the north side.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the kids in the city, and I'm not trying to be subjective or anything, but they get, when the city passes out things, they pass them out over there. They pass out free computers. They build rec centers. They get free backpacks. They get free bicycles. They get free turkeys. It's crazy. My kids didn't get any of that because we live on the north side. But I think that if you stop taking away all these free things, they will get jobs. There are jobs. There are jobs, and you just have to find them. They're not great jobs. They're not full-time jobs, but you can make more money selling drugs.
Yeah, I think they make more money selling drugs. I would argue because there are not legitimate jobs available. But Heather making the point that in her business, she would not drive into those neighborhoods. I remember one time in Chicago where we were going to meet some friends at a restaurant on the west side. It was far out on the west side, and the first cab that we got into, we weren't in the cab yet. We told them where we wanted to go, and I think it was called Garfield Park. Don't hold me to that, but at any rate, the cab driver said, "I'm not going there," and just sped off.
Holy cow!
Yeah, we never even got in a cab. Tamara is in Chicago. Hello, also in Chicago. Hello, Tamara. Good morning. What do you think?
Good morning, Bill. Well, I was born and raised here, a single parent, and I raised all 3 of my children. Like I told your screener, my children basically survived Chicago public schools, and I say that literally. They came after my son, who is 6'5". The gangs came after him twice, and he called me. Raised my children in Hyde Park, blocks away from the president. I'm an adult probation officer. I've been working with this for 17 years. And it is a crapshoot when you walk out here in these neighborhoods. It doesn't matter. I heard someone say something about, well, you know, if it's during the day and you keep your head up, just know what to look for. That's not the case. Because the people in Chicago, and you know, I'm hearing about, you know, well, giving them turkeys and giving them this and that, and they need jobs. I'm going to tell you, it is much easier to make money with the drugs. It's a sense of hopelessness here.
Mm-hmm.
The gang situation is rooted so deeply. It is a culture here, and I don't even want to go so much to say it's a subculture. That is just what happens in Chicago, and I don't mean to down Chicago. I was born and raised here. I'm proud to be from here. It's a gritty town. It's a rough town, and
well, whoa! Sorry, Tamara, we lost you. You're making a good point there. I'm very sorry. Your cell phones are great when they work. But all I got to say is, you know, just reaching out to all of our good friends in Chicago, and it's not just a problem for Chicago. It's something I think we all have to be concerned about, and do what we can to look for solutions here. And they're not overnight solutions, but the violence just cannot continue. We are killing our children. 3 more killed overnight in Chicago. We'll be right back and tell you what the president is up to today on his road trip to Texas.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, well, if you like what you've been seeing and listening to so far, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hour number 3 coming up with Sabrina Siddiqui here from Huffington Post as a friend of Bill for the entire hour. And we're going to talk immigration, get right down to exactly what the big issues are with Cesar Vargas, who is co-director of the Dream Action Coalition. He's got the answers. Find out in our next hour here. You got to go to the video stream to follow at youtube.com/Talker TV, TAWKR TV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
Okay, President Obama talking on the economy this morning down in Denver. Then he has a fundraiser in downtown Denver and then goes on to Dallas, Texas, meeting with Texas residents, including the governor.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, for all of you people who complain about the soccer scores being too low, that they don't score enough, yesterday was for you. Yeah, Germany came through. Not Brazil. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, July 9. Great to see you this morning. Big day here in Washington, D.C. We'll tell you all about it, tell you what's going on, and look forward to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS. We are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, and there with you worldwide on our video stream at Talker TV, TAWKR TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. And I'm here with you this morning. When I'm not here, you might very well see Sabrina Siddiqui sitting in my seat tonight. She's this morning, across from us, here as a friend of Bill for the entire hour from Huffington Post. Hello, Sabrina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Are you into this World Cup?
So much.
So,
although my team was out early.
I know. Italy, huh?
We got bit.
Yeah.
We also, we're not going to go that far, but I think that yesterday's match was just something else. I mean, what you said is so important, though. People over here think it's not exciting.
Yeah.
Anyone who's followed this sport and World Cups in particular will tell you you'll never see a semifinal like that.
I can tell you, I was one of the people before this World Cup who would say soccer is kind of boring and it's low scoring, and how can you have a game end in a 0-0 tie? I've fully converted, man. I will watch soccer from here on out.
I am not a sports fan, as you know. I watched 3 World Cup matches last weekend. And that was good soccer last weekend.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
oh my God, yeah.
Yesterday was painful.
Germany only won by 1 touchdown. I mean, it was pretty close.
There was a point when I'm like, okay, they should just let them score to have something, because this is getting brutal. And they're in front of their home crowd, who so badly, are wanting to win. I mean, they're passionate on another level in some of these countries.
Yeah.
And in Europe, too. It's not like the German fans are not equally passionate about this sport.
They just weren't there.
They're just not there. I was worried for their safety. Those of them who were there, I'm glad they escorted them out.
Yeah, they had police escorts out of the stadium.
They did. Before we get back, I just want to be sure Peter Ogburn, of course, you already heard from Elisa Murphy here this morning.
Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz has the week off, so Javon Paris is here on the phones, ready to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding still refusing to come back to work. I don't know.
Is this a contract negotiation stunt or something?
Sit-down strike.
Where did he go? What did you do?
We don't know.
What did you guys do? It's Peter's fault. I know it's Peter's fault.
But Monty Kinsler is here, our videographer, doing a great job filling in for Cyprian. But what I thought yesterday is that they should have a mercy rule. And after a certain point, they just say, okay, it's over. Boom. Germany wins. But they kept racking it up. After the 7th, when they scored the 7th goal, I just turned it off. I could not watch.
Well, that's why they didn't give any real stoppage time. I think the refs like, all right, a minute, and then we should just blow our whistle because, so I think one of the commentators put it aptly. He said if this were a boxing match, then the referee would have just stopped it to put Brazil out of their misery and cause no further pain. It'll take them years to get over this, honestly. This stuff lasts for a very long time.
Oh, well, they were talking yesterday about 1940,
It opens up all kinds of wounds. And this, because it was in their home country and they had spent billions of dollars on the backs of poor people. I mean, this is something that I think is at least also a wake-up call for their government. I think there was a concern, and there was an op-ed we had a post about how it's almost good that they didn't win, though, because then the government would kind of have something to show for itself to say, well, look, it's all worth it, when really it's not. And this will shed light on the real problems in that country, hopefully.
What was it, the first time in 40 years that they've lost a big game on their home soil, right?
Yeah.
Something
like
a big game, yes. I mean, their record is pretty impeccable. Of course, they haven't. It's been a while since they won the World Cup last in 2002, and that was against Germany. So if there's ever such thing as sweet revenge, I mean, geez,
man,
no mercy.
So, all right, Sabrina, you are the expert. We have Germany and
either Netherlands or Argentina. You're trying to find an answer,
right?
Oh gosh, I would like Argentina to go through. It would have been nice to see one of the sort of smaller teams or underdogs, I guess I should say, even though they have Messi, who's one of the best players in the world, if not the best. Netherlands is a really strong team. And I mean, I think that it's really tough to call, honestly. I mean, Netherlands is the one that's going to be more consistent in their approach. And I think for Argentina, it's all going to be about whether or not their star player is able to do something special.
So where is your place of choice to watch the soccer games?
Unfortunately, I was on the Hill yesterday, and I'll be there today. So it was like my computer while also trying to work and do both. I mean, we've watched them in the office when I'm in the office. Otherwise, on weekends, I just, I'll put it on at home or I'll watch with my dad. My parents live in the suburbs, so...
I
wherever.
thought you had a favorite bar somewhere that you were. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where I think I watched one of the USA games at a bar, but there's not, on some of the other teams there isn't the same kind of interest. So when I was living in Italy, I would go out and watch in public. It was something else, but over here we're not quite there yet unless you're watching Team USA.
Yeah. Well, Peter and I, local bar down here, Tunnicliffs down the street, so we were
I'm a big fan of watching soccer games on the bar.
All right. Sabrina here with us. She'll bring us up to date on all the news from Washington. And then at the half hour, we'll be joined by Cesar Vargas from the Dream Action Coalition to talk immigration reform. Very much in the news these days. But first,
Peter. This is the Full Court Press.
Spoiler alert.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever spoiled anything on social media, like a TV show, or has
I
anybody
spoiled the ending of Godzilla sitting in that chair.
Oh, that's right. You said did. Well, the BBC just did a comprehensive poll on social networks ruining TV shows and movies. It turns out the respondents said 74% say that they have had their favorite TV show spoiled by someone on either Facebook or Twitter, and 47% admit that they have been the spoiler. They have actually spoiled something for someone else. Among the most common answers of shows that were spoiled, Game of Thrones is number one, with 21% of respondents saying that they have had that ruined or spoiled, and Breaking Bad coming in at number two.
First of all, I feel like as much as I hate spoilers, just stay off of Twitter then if you are not caught up.
Yeah,
right during the peak discussion.
Yeah.
I actually was like I didn't even watch Breaking Bad until it was over, and I watched all of it. But because I was not part of it, I was able to stay away from the rush and still not actually know what happens.
And there are so many spoilers in a show like Breaking Bad that it's really tough to just avoid all.
Homeland, that was spoiled.
Homeland was also on the list, by the way.
Yeah. All right, well, I plead not guilty.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Over the holiday weekend in Custer, South Dakota, a 4th of July hot dog eating contest took a tragic turn as Walter Eagletail, 47 years old of Custer, South Dakota, died during the hot dog eating contest.
Oh, no.
He tried to eat more than anyone else.
Oh.
And he died doing what he loved, eating hot dogs competitively, apparently. The Custer Chamber of Commerce, out of respect for the departed, canceled the pie eating contest for the following day.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
Seriously, that wasn't a joke. They actually canceled the pie eating
This is America.
Yeah. Poor guy. Poor guy. And the annual United Nations study that takes a look at drug use around the world found that we are no longer number one when it comes to cocaine use. Cocaine use is more prevalent in which country? Any guesses?
I don't want to.
Germany.
Germany? You would think so.
Yeah.
You think so with their performance. No, number one is Scotland.
Really?
Scotland. More Scots are doing blow than any other country in the
Would
world.
never have guessed
we
that.
are number 2 on the list, and Spain is number 3.
Okay.
There you go. It's always snowing in Scotland, apparently.
Hey, 50 minutes after the hour. All right, so Sabrina, I saw you posted last night a story about the John Boehner lawsuit where actually I keep waiting for some sensible Republicans to stand up and say, why are we doing this? This is really kind of silly. But you report that there are Republicans who are actually lining up behind this.
Yes, there are. I think that at this point, especially in an election year, even those sensible Republicans, you're not going to hear from them when the speaker has decided to pursue something.
Mm-hmm.
If this were another lawmaker, like a Ted Cruz or a fringe lawmaker saying, oh, let's sue the president, it would have been a separate story perhaps. But I think Boehner has deliberately chosen this path. And, a lot of people on both the left and the right are saying this is nothing more than a stunt. But he's looking at a late July floor vote on legislation that would authorize the House General Counsel to sue the Obama administration.
Now, it is interesting that he has gotten, of course, some criticism from the left, including myself. I had a column in The Hill yesterday about this do-nothing lawsuit. He's also now getting some criticism from the right that this is a weak excuse for what really ought to happen. Mm-hmm. Here is the intellectual powerhouse of the Republican Party, Sarah Palin.
Impeachment is a message that has to be sent to our president that we're not going to put up with this lawlessness.
So she says it's a silly lawsuit that they really should. Don't sue the president. Impeach him.
Yes, and Eric Erickson had a scathing column for Red State, a conservative blog, also saying that Boehner should man up. And, House Republicans and Boehner have allowed this president to win time and time again. Win, I'm not sure what they mean by. They mean on all those, if they don't act, then the world will be in some kind of calamity like fiscal cliff and shutdown. That's what they meant. Now, obviously, he hasn't really achieved much legislatively because of Congress, but they want impeachment. And I talked to a number of House Republicans yesterday, including some of the most conservative members like Steve King from Iowa, John Fleming from Louisiana. And, these guys were not really agreeing for once with the Tea Party, impeachment movement. They were saying, look, the votes aren't there. If we have to impeach someone, the Senate has to be willing to agree. And with Harry Reid in control, that won't happen. And, one of them was even saying, look what happened to Bill Clinton. That only improved his popularity. And one of them said, I don't want Joe Biden to be president. So there was also that.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the Republicans will agree to go along with Boehner and that Boehner will, in fact, file a lawsuit?
I think that he will have the votes at the end of the day. They want to supposedly send a message, but we know a lot of this, of course, has to do with shoring up support within their base leading into November. And, he could probably achieve it, at least in terms of having it pass the House floor. But, finding the legal standing and whether this will actually be successful, that's a much larger question that a lot of people are not convinced will happen. It depends which executive action he wishes to go with. Some people think the healthcare law is his best shot if he does want to say the president administered many delays on his own. But even then, this would take a long, long time. I would be surprised if this president was still in office by the time they resolve this.
No, he will not be.
You're right.
In terms of politics this time, we thought we had reached the end of the road in Mississippi after the runoff for the Republican primary, where Chris McDaniel forced Thad Cochran into a runoff. Thad Cochran wins the runoff. But now the Tea Party candidate is refusing to ride off into the sunset. Reported yesterday that the Senate conservative PAC, I guess that's what it's called, right? Actually has sent money against Thad Cochran. 7 Senate Conservatives Fund have wired $70,000 to Chris McDaniel's legal fund where he is challenging, and they're even talking about he's demanding like a new election in Mississippi.
It's crazy.
Republicans eating their own.
It's insane, and I think when they took another look at the vote count after the fact, because his insistence, they found that Thad Cochran's margin of victory was even bigger by maybe 1,000 votes than they had initially counted. So the results are what they are. They are trying to make the case that he bought off votes. They're trying to make the case that something illegal happened. And they simply won't back down. Now, whether or not something illegal happened, I think it would be hard for them to prove. Certainly, there's no evidence of it at this moment. And again, I think it just looks like he's not willing to give up. When the election has been decided, they need to move on. It's surprising, though, conservatives really, really want to get rid of him this badly, since he's not exactly like he's not John McCain or Lindsey Graham. He hasn't been at the forefront of the establishment movement by any means.
No, and he's certainly no moderate, or Thad Cochran, no moderate, and certainly no liberal, right? I mean, so, what do they want? But also, isn't there sort of a not so hidden and not so subtle racist element to this too, is that they're complaining about the fact that Thad Cochran actually asked for and got votes from black Americans.
Right. That's where these allegations of, whether or not he paid for these votes are coming from. And this guy, Chris McDaniels, on his former radio show, has a history of saying racist things. So I'm not sure that people think that he's a credible voice here, and it does look like it's in poor taste. I mean, I think he's getting poor advice certainly to keep going. I don't exactly think that his team is that competent to begin with the whole nursing home scandal that had arisen. Yeah. So there's a lot of, but there's total craziness in this campaign. This is one of those campaigns that no one expected to pay much attention to. And it's just been like it's been like a soap opera from the beginning.
I know.
It's really tough to argue that he's run some great campaign, and
no,
it's
the only thing I enjoy about it is watching Republicans, practice a little cannibalism, which is usually Democrats doing it. So it's nice to see Republicans doing it for a change. 22 minutes after the hour, Sabrina Siddiqui here from Huffington Post. As a friend of Bill, covering the wide range of issues affecting us here in our nation's capital. We, again, at the half hour, will be joined by Cesar Vargas from the Dream Action Coalition. Your questions, your comments, always welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look, your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, immigration is the big story of the day, and we'll get into that with Cesar Vargas from the Dream Action Coalition with Sabrina Siddiqui in the next half hour. Sabrina, you have a little bit of breaking news about 2016 and a possible new Republican candidate that nobody has been talking about until now.
Well, the Washington Post has the news, but I'm happy to relay it here.
Oh, we'll give you the credit.
Yesterday they had an interview with Rob Portman, Republican senator from Ohio, indicating that he might be interested in running for president. This came amid the news that the Republican National Convention in 2016 will be held in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Certainly a chance to elevate his national profile in his home state. He said he might have a change of heart if he doesn't feel that the candidates are appropriately representing the Republican Party, which is a way of saying I'm probably in, but we'll see what happens.
He was on the short list with Mitt Romney for vice president the last time around.
He was.
Right?
He was.
He was the first Republican senator to come out for same-sex marriage.
Yes, first sitting Republican senator come out for gay marriage after learning that his son is gay, and he feels that that's going to be a strength, not a liability. He thinks that, especially to reach out to younger voters, that's one thing that'll work in his favor. Mm-hmm. Also, big budget guy, so he thinks on fiscal issues he'll also have an upper hand.
Yeah. I'd say an uphill battle for him. He doesn't have that much name recognition.
Right.
But with some of the other crazies that are talking about running, he could end up being the sane one in the race.
This
Sabrina
is
Siddiqui
the
here. We'll be right back.
Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look! Your crush is looking at you.
Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees. major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
If
I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 33 minutes now after the hour of The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Brought to you this morning by the American Federation of Teachers, the good men and women of the AFT under President Randy Weingarten. Making a difference in America's classrooms every day, you bet. You can find out more about their good work at aft.org. That's their website. Immigration is the big story of the day. President Obama dealing with that today on the line in Dallas, Texas, meeting with a group of local leaders down there who are very involved in the problems at the border, as in addition to some members of the faith community. And the governor of Texas invited late yesterday, sort of as a last-minute addition to the meeting. So the big question is, what should we do, and what authority does the president have to act? Here with the answers this morning, Cesar Vargas is co-director of the Dream Action Coalition, very involved in this issue. Cesar, welcome, and thanks for coming in this morning.
Bill, thank you so much for having me.
So you are head of the co-head of the Dream Act Coalition. You are a dreamer yourself?
Yeah, so...
Tell us your story.
So I arrived with, like many of dreamers here in the country, I arrived when I was 5 years old. Ever since
parents brought you here?
Yeah, so after my father passed away, my mother, like any loving mother, took the decision to reunify our family. So my older brothers were in the U.S., and she, for her, it was a decision either staying in Mexico and, pretty much sometimes I remember not eating, my mom not eating, and, kind of I learned that. And, like any mother took the decision, try to apply legally. The system was already getting all messed up. She couldn't apply for a visa. She crossed us through family through the border, and ever since then, I've been in the U.S. I went to the New York City public school system, graduated college, graduated law school, and I'm a New Yorker. I'm an American like anyone.
And you out of law school, but you're not an American citizen. What is your status today?
So right now, I'm not a U.S. citizen, but I was able to apply under the President's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival program, pretty much providing me protection from deportations as well as work authorization and a driver's license. It was really exciting for the first time, being like a teenager, walking like at 25 years old, 27 years old, walking to DMV excited while everyone was dreadful being there.
And you got your driver's license.
It was exciting for the first time in over 20 years that I actually felt like I was belonging.
Are the roads safe in New York with you?
We're New Yorkers. We're just crazy. So
well, now you're not an American citizen yet, but under DACA, are you on a path to citizenship? I mean,
so DACA does not provide any type of legal status towards legal permanent residence or citizenship. It just protects us from being deported at this moment. So
for how long?
It's incremental, so you have to renew for every 2 years. So I applied in 2013. I still have a few more months, but many dreamers have to apply already for the renewal process. That it was already announced.
And did the president's action cover like all dreamers? I mean, is it or is it only up to a certain date?
Yeah. So on the DACA, the requirements is you have to be here before age 16, no older than 31.
Before age 16.
Yes. So you had to arrive before age 16. You couldn't be older than 31 years old. Had to be at least 5 years. And you had to good moral character, make sure you graduate college or in school. So the requirements were very strict. So unfortunately, not many dreamers were able to make the cut. Some dreamers I know missed the deadline by 2 days. So maybe a month. So it was very an arbitrary requirement, but it did provide for, right now we have over 600,000 young people who were able to qualify for the program. But I think that's why we're here in Washington, D.C. That's why I'm here and still advocating because, even though half of my family are citizens, my mother's still undocumented. So we're asking the president to really expand that program and actually provide affirmative relief within his powers to protect, millions of parents who don't have any type of status. I'm here, for me, being in D.C. is not a career or a political curiosity. For me, it's my family. And I think that's why I'm here to make sure that the president expands that program to protect my mother.
So you think, Sabrina, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you talked a little bit about what the president can do. And so that's what a lot of advocates have been raising is that, he's going to keep on waiting for Congress and they're not going to act anytime soon. What are the steps that he can take within using his own executive authority?
Well, the president...
At the risk of getting sued by John Boehner, of course.
Or being impeached by Sarah Palin. So we've been seeing that. Right. But the president has vast authority, especially as the chief executive of all administrative agencies, especially Department of Homeland Security at the U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services, which pretty much deals with all immigration. The president can definitely change and reform enforcement policy. So, for example, he can actually focus those limited resources on actually focusing on those crime and violent offenders rather than my parent, rather than my mother. And that's what he did with DACA. He said, I'm going to put all these resources to going after criminals and leave dreamers alone. Mm-hmm. He can refine those requirements and say, we're gonna exclude from enforcement proceedings parents of dreamers or parents of U.S. citizens, and still go after criminals. And I think that's one of the things that he can also as the chief executive is also the commander-in-chief, he can direct the Department of Defense to allow dreamers to enlist in the military. For myself also, as a New Yorker, 9/11 was very personal to me. I tried to enlist, but because of my status, I couldn't.
Really?
So the president has vast authority from protecting groups of people to allowing dreamers to enlist in the military.
But I thought there were some dreamers in the military, aren't there?
There isn't. In 2001, it was very randomly. Some people were able to go into the military without documentation, but it was pretty much a slip up. People either use fake social security numbers, or not even ask. For me, at least in New York, they were very required to prove everything. I couldn't at 19, 18, 17 years old. I didn't have a birth certificate that says U.S. citizenship. I didn't have a U.S. passport, and I wasn't able. So, for me, that's an aspiration to serve my country and really contribute back.
Do you think we still need comprehensive immigration reform?
Of course, and I think we definitely need that, but I think there's a different concept of what we should define as a victory. The immigration reform is still alive, but it's not in Congress. And the president can do vast authority and vast action to reform our immigration system, not to the extent that providing citizenship, which only Congress can do, but he can definitely provide protection to millions of families who are currently in fear of deportation.
I'm curious, there's been so much talk about whether House Republicans will do anything, and John Boehner certainly insists that he will, not this year, it's an election year, but next year. Do you believe Republicans? Do you believe that people like John Boehner leadership is committed to getting something done?
I definitely do think they do have the intention. I think they're genuine. There's many Republicans who do want to get it done. And, there's Republicans who I met with who say, listen, we need to get this done. But there's a dysfunctional component in the House Republicans, in the party itself, that's preventing Speaker Boehner, now elect Kevin McCarthy, from moving forward. And these are the Steve Kings, these are the Jeff Sessions, these are the Ted Cruzes who are being wrenches in the whole system, and they're preventing any type of meaningful reform. And that's also calls for a lack of leadership from Republican leaders to really move their party to something that they need to get done, not just for the sake of their own political future, but for the sake of actually fixing our economy, to ensure that people come in legally. So what's happening at the border now? It's a consequence of the fact that we don't have a working modern system that would allow people to be processed, in a way that puts people in a legal path.
So what should we do right now about the fact that we have 52,000 children crossing the border who come here? They're not trying to escape detention. They're turning themselves in to the guards, because they want to take advantage of perhaps the possibility of staying here in the United States. Yeah. How do we deal with that? Lindsey Graham says it doesn't matter whether they're from Mexico or El Salvador or Guatemala. We ought to just send them all home right away.
Yeah, it's definitely a tragedy to see, for myself, as coming here when I was 5 years old. For me, I didn't, and I didn't come from Guatemala. I came from Mexico. For me, the only thing in my mind, the only thing in my mother's mind, was reunifying with my family, and I can imagine all these kids are escaping violence. They're escaping gang violence. There's stories where gangs literally came to a mother's house and said, if you don't give your daughters to our gang to be sexual prostitutes for the gang, we're gonna kill them and we're gonna kill you. The mother has just sent them to the U.S. on their own. So they're escaping violence, and the UN just intervened and said, U.S. Mexico, these are not immigrants, these are refugees, and we need to classify them. And there's a different component. What Republicans unfortunately are saying, that this is a problem of the president not enforcing the border. The president has literally deported over 2 million people, and that's a record number than any president in history, more than George W. Bush. So unfortunately, Republicans are using this as a political game to hammer the president. But this is a whole different component. This is a foreign policy issue, a humanitarian issue that doesn't involve what I went through. And for myself, I can. It's definitely tough. It definitely complicates the politics on immigration. But we can't turn our backs on these kids. These are kids who are escaping to just be with their families. And for myself, I cannot, in my mind, really kind of say what with Murrieta happened in California to really show a sign. Go back. We're gonna, go back to your country. Where these kids are just escaping to be with their families.
Yeah, you forget these are you use the word. These are kids. These are children, and we also have the law, the trafficking law, which says these children from countries other than Mexico have to be treated differently and in a certain way. And the president said he's vowed to obey the law and has asked Congress for some more money for more resources in order to deal with this problem. Cesar Vargas is here with us from the Dream Action Coalition with his own story and his request for the president to use more executive authority in the immigration area. Your questions, your comments here. Sabrina Siddiqui remains as a friend of Bill. Let's join us at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
Eye cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Wednesday morning, 12 minutes before the top of the hour. Sabrina Siddiqui is here as a friend of Bill from Huffington Post, political reporter for Huffington Post. Cesar Vargas here, the co-director of the Dream Action Coalition, one of the leading organizations in the area of immigration reform. Here in Washington to try to get some action out of the Congress. President Obama in Texas tried to get some action out of the Congress. I want to ask you, Cesar, how important is this issue of immigration reform politically? I mean, it wasn't so long ago that Mitt Romney got walloped in the Latino vote, and people like Lindsey Graham came out and said, you know what, as a party, unless we take the lead on immigration reform, we will never win the White House back. What happened?
Well, that's exactly true. Like when Mitt Romney in Iowa said, I'm going to veto the DREAM Act, we activated a whole national operation to really chase him around the country and hold him accountable. So we met him with protests. We heckled him in events. We confronted him in debates. Jorge Ramos was able to ask him tough questions, and he actually, helped us get into some events too. So to make sure that he heard our stories. So I think the major electoral as well as political component is this: that no campaign will ever get as close to the Latino vote than the Dreamers, than our families. My family voted this first time, in 2012, for the first time, because they saw what President Obama did for Dreamers, and they're going to listen to me rather than a commercial, rather than a someone who's knocking on the door. So I think that there is a major component on how important immigration reform is to both parties, and I think that's really important, because there is also some Democrats who don't want to get anything done, who don't want the president to take action as well on immigration.
Do you think that because we're eyeing another presidential election, and some of the conversation has been, like we were talking about before the break, whether or not Republicans will act or whether the president is just going to have to take matters into his own hands? Let's say Republicans don't act. Do you think that that's almost a disqualifier for a Republican candidate for president? Or would it be enough if whoever it is, Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, someone else, were to simply embrace immigration reform, even if they didn't actually have any record of their own?
It's definitely going to have an impact. I think that's like my fam will not forget what Republicans are doing this election cycle. And Republicans at this moment, they're very short-sighted. They're not looking into the future. They're just looking in midterm elections. For them, they're just looking in Nebraska. They're looking in Arkansas and all these red states. And however, there's two important states, Colorado and Virginia, are very key states that right now we are going to have an impact. But I do think that even Hillary Clinton kind of fumble on this. She's saying that she kind of defended the president's deportation record on this. So I think the Republican candidate is going to be nominee is going to be disadvantaged. But if I think one of the things that we as Dreamers, we as a new immigrant advocacy, is to ensure that we hold accountable both parties, that make sure that Democrats are not just doing saying pretty talking points to attract our community. We're going to hold accountable both parties, and we're going to be critical of Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren or Jeb Bush or Chris Christie. So I definitely do think that it's going to be Republicans that are going to have a very, very difficult time, but we're going to listen to both parties, especially how they're going to be moving forward on this.
And however we resolve this issue of the 52,000 children at the border today, the long-term answer still is comprehensive immigration reform, isn't it? And what you're saying is, while we're waiting for that, the president has to do everything he can within the law, and there's a lot that he can do. Correct?
Absolutely, and it's ultimately Congress is the one that's actually going to be providing citizenship for millions of families, including myself. But in the meantime, the president does have power to ensure that resources are actually allocated towards fighting crime, right, at the border, to securing the border, making sure that veterans many veterans have been deported, making sure that those veterans who have given service to their country are staying in the U.S., to make sure that U.S. citizen children don't have to be in foster care because their parents have been deported. So the president has an obligation at this moment to take a lot, because Congress is not going to get something done. But hopefully, I think this is where we need to do. We cannot just wait for Congress. The president needs to take action.
Well, I got to tell you, if anything happens, it's going to be in large part due to your good work and your leadership, Cesar Vargas. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much
for
having me.
Sabrina, part of our team. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Yep. I have officially taken Peter Ogbur's job.
All right.
I have not.
And pretty soon you're going to be taking mine here. So.
There you go.
And I'll be back with a quick parting shot for today. Thanks, guys.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Just wrapping up what we've been talking about here, we certainly have a serious problem at the border with these 52,000 children, unaccompanied minors crossing the border, most of them from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. But solving that problem should not really be that difficult. Today's trafficking law, passed overwhelmingly by Congress and signed by George W. Bush, spells it out. Children from Mexico are deported immediately. Children from Central America are held in a detention center until they can appear before an immigration judge and make their case. So really, this isn't complicated. And I think to all of his critics, President Obama should just stand up and say, these are children. I'm going to obey the law. I'm going to take care of these kids, period. And if you don't like it, sue me. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Congressman Chris Van Hollen and Congresswoman Deborah Wasserman Schultz here tomorrow. We'll see you then.
This is the Bill Press Show.